story.
New questions now on the release of a dangerous al-Qaeda terrorist. Some lawmakers questioning whether it was part of a behind-the-scenes deal to secure freedom of two Americans overseas. That's led the House Armed Services Committee to investigate the administration's policy on prisoner releases.
It's part of a really troubling trend where it looks like the president is trying to release as many people as possible to make it easier for him to keep his political promises to close Guantanamo. Now, as he's releasing people, the danger to our country is going up, and that has lots of folks on Capitol Hill very concerned.
So now, Congressman Duncan Hunter, California, is a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Sir, how are you? And good morning to you there in Washington, D.C. You sent a letter to that man right there, Mac Thornberry, your colleague. It's my hope you will take seriously the recommendations I sent. What are those recommendations?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. When it comes to hostage negotiations, the FBI is in charge. The FBI is even in charge if the hostages are in, Afghanistan, for instance, where you have the Department of Defense, you have all of our special operations, you have a big CIA contingent. There needs to be somebody in charge within the Department of Defense who heads up all of these hostage negotiations. So there's one person, there's one point of contact. You don't let people fall through the cracks, and we can also make sure that we have a consistent, coherent policy, which we don't have right now. Our policy is pretty confusing now.
Confusing indeed. I think for a lot of people watching this are trying to figure out. So let's try and take it a piece at a time. Why is it this way? Who is in charge, or where is the charge lacking?
Right, that's what we're trying to find out, literally. I mean, that's why we wrote this latest letter, was to say, hey, who made the decision to send an Islamic combatant back to the battlefield? Why we still have Marines and soldiers on the battlefield? Who made this decision? Is it a Department of Defense decision? Did our military leaders say that's okay? We want one more Islamic terrorist to have to fight? Or was it a Department of Justice decision where Eric Holder's complicit with the president's non-policy on hostage negotiation and trades? We're trying to find that out.
Now, the State Department, just again, one at a time. The State Department is suggesting that there was never a deal on the table to swap for these two Americans or this American couple. You clearly don't believe that. Why not?
No, well, because number one, there's people coming out corroborating our belief that there was a deal on the table. Number two, the Qataris have been in contact with the government, with our government last year, talking about the release of al-Mari, this Islamic terrorist that we just released. So you put things like that together, and it's hard to not believe that there was some type of negotiation, that there was quid pro quo. And here's what the administration does. They say, well, we didn't trade him directly for people, meaning, there wasn't like some East Berlin, West Berlin, White Knights reference where you have people walking across the border at the same time. Just because there's an intermediary that we pay or an intermediary that does this negotiation doesn't make it any less of a hostage negotiation or trade. And that's what we think. The administration's hiding behind semantics here and equivocating when in reality they did do a hostage trade.
So one final question here. Why do you think, if indeed you are right about this and the State Department's wrong, why do you think this is the policy?
Because I think you have a separation from reality and what we're doing fighting Islamic terror throughout the world and the administrative, bureaucratic side of the administration. I think that the one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing. I think you have a very liberal, left-leaning president and an administration who's getting the upper hand when it comes to what should we do when Islamic terrorists kidnap Americans. They're taking the lead on this, when in reality the people that can do it the best are the Department of Defense, who have thousands of boots on the ground in these areas and that do not want to see Islamic combatants released from the U.S. to harm more Americans on the ground as we fight the war on terror.
Wow. Okay, Duncan Hunter, serious charge. We'll see where it goes. Thank you, sir, for your time. Out of California, there in Capitol Hill. Thank you.